It's time to visit with the mayors, but the mayor's not here today. Marca Ewers-Shurtleff is here. She's the mayor pro tem. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, and I have to correct you, Scott. That would be James Edge. He's our mayor pro tem.
That's right. Well, why isn't he here?
Right? I'm sure he's busy. He's been covering a lot for the mayor. As you may know, our mayor's in D.C. right now. He's working on power and infrastructure and really focusing on our energy transmission here in Bryan.
Before we talk about that, I want to talk about tornadoes.
All
Because
right.
you came in and you said you don't like tornadoes.
I don't. So I'm from the Panhandle of Texas, and we have a lot of tornadoes. And I do have a story on that. True 80s kid, growing up on a farm. My dad knew I was terrified of tornadoes. He thought that was completely irrational. So one day, we were set to have a whole bunch of tornadoes. So he loads me in the pickup, and we go and attempt to chase them down. I don't think he predicted this. We ended up having 21 that day. One of them touched down on our farm, picked up our sprinklers, twisted them like Coke cans, tornadoes all around, the movie Twister. Let's just say it did not cure my fear, and I am still definitely afraid of tornadoes.
Guys, 21 twisters that day?
Yeah, that's
Yes.
wild.
That's 21 too many
Yes,
twisters.
and not all of them touched down, but the one we were going to see sure did. And
Yeah.
it hit our farm, and it picked up that heavy metal sprinkler, and we would run water through them when tornadoes would come to make them heavier.
Right.
Oh,
It just
okay.
picked it up, twisted it. It really was like the movie Twister. We're driving and metal's flying, and needless to say, I am still deathly afraid of tornadoes.
Yeah, thanks, Dad.
That actually makes perfect sense that you would be scared of tornadoes.
I think that backfired. Now I'm the one in the bathtub with the mattress and just praying it's over soon.
Right.
Was he always a storm chaser?
Yes.
Really?
He was just unbothered by them. They just seemed to be nothing but a little bit of an inconvenience.
Yeah, just a little wind.
Yeah, just
Well,
unbothered.
Yeah, you can't move. You got your farm there. You got your investment there.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay, all right. So enough about tornadoes, but back. So the mayor's in Washington. What are we trying to develop there?
Yes, sir. He's up in Washington talking about power and infrastructure with the decision makers up there. Anytime we're really focused on economic development, the first questions we get asked, do you have power? Do you have water? The city of Bryan is so fortunate to have BTU, but we've got to continue to gain our abilities to increase and provide sustainable energy. And our residential energy is not at risk. This is not what he's lobbying for up there, but we are working in D.C., particularly the mayor, who spent a lot of his time going up there and doing is focusing on increasing our transmission capabilities in order to go along with our economic development opportunities.
Sure. And I was out there, I guess, a couple of weeks ago. I know there's more land that they've acquired back adjacent to where they are, but what are the opportunities what I'm not seeing, I guess, is the development I thought I would see from a residential standpoint, certainly from a commercial standpoint. And I know on the whim of anybody, Relish can change into something else. So how do you prepare for this chameleon, if you will, right across the highway?
Well, we just implemented the new Relish reinvestment zone, and so that's going to provide some tax abatements. We're working closely with Texas A&M University, who's been one of our best allies. We want to attract innovative, technology-driven businesses out there, and so we're doing everything we can to incentivize that commercially driven growth. We've also had interest in some residential communities out there. Because that is open and green space, Council has been working with planning and zoning to make sure that we make this the kind of area that the people who will be attracted to these higher paying jobs will want to reside in, that we get a good product. When a home investor invests in that, it's not a 10-year investment, it's a lifelong one. So we're working on some residential regulations out there without trying to be too heavy-handed, and we opened that up, or we designated it the Relish Reinvestment Zone to try and attract additional business development as well.
So if you want these people to be close, high-paying jobs, and you want them to be close to their workspace, this is probably going to be larger lots, farther setbacks. What are the kind of things that you're looking at? Wider streets? How would you make this different than some other development in another part of the city?
Yes, we've looked around. We actually did a field trip and went through some of the neighborhoods that we have had some of the problems come out of. Planning and Zoning and City Council also passed a wider street ordinance that was very popular with our first responders. Parking along the street became problematic in some of our subdevelopments that had the more narrow street. Our fire guys couldn't get the truck down. If you've ever driven down one of those streets, if you've got folks parked on both sides of the street, it's very difficult to navigate. So we have already implemented a wider street. We're also potentially looking at larger setbacks to get more driveway room or perhaps a wider driveway. We're working inside the city to make sure that staff, planning and zoning, and council is in lockstep. Something that's very important to me, I don't mind raising the bar on development. What I want to make sure the city does, if we're changing regulations, we need to be very clear so that our building community understands what to expect. I think it's okay to work in conjunction with our building community and ask for a higher product. I just think it's essential that when builders and people who are making things come to the table to try to get a new project passed, they know exactly what to anticipate. We don't want them to have any surprises.
Now, with an era, I remember Frank Clark coming up with the idea of certain fees were set aside if you would build a certain square footage house. And as a result, Bryan, for years, was ahead of College Station in single-family permits, and that worked great because there's a definite need there. These are higher dollar homes. These are going to be more expensive per square foot. Is there going to be some sort of an inducement for this builder to come in and build on spec something that may be 20% more than it would be if they built it in another part of the city?
And that's definitely what we're exploring. How do we incentivize that? Because we have gotten an influx of one type of product, and we're very happy to have that. Bryan does not have impact fees. And so if you speak with anybody in our development community, they will tell you it costs up to $30,000 less to build the same home in Bryan as in College Station. And that was the driver for all of that new development. We're very grateful for it. We're not trying to stifle that whatsoever. And we realize that's been so successful. So to your question, I believe we need to focus on how to incentivize folks to continue to build, but maybe to be able fiscally to bring a newer product to the table. And we're certainly sensitive. Most of us are small business owners to the input cost and what it's costing the developers, and that they're businessmen and women as well. So we're meeting next week with staff, planning and zoning, and a few members of city council. We have to be careful not to get a quorum on any, but to discuss how we do that. We certainly want to keep Bryan open for business, and we want to be mindful to our development community as we continue to evolve as a community.
So that takes care of the residential component. Well, I guess, can I ask, do we have a number of lots that you would be, or we're not to that point yet?
We don't have a specific amount of lots that we're requiring. All of those, developments would be different. So depending whether they fall into RD5, we've talked about maybe even designating a new RD development. And then if you differ from that, you would come to the city in what's called a PD request, which is a planned development. And that's when we have the opportunity to really work with the builder. Yes, we understand a 7-foot setback does not work on this street because of the topography or the floodplain, but maybe you guys could provide some additional landscaping or a bit more masonry. This is where we can kind of make deals with the developer that work for both entities.
Okay, so that's residential. How about commercial? What do you look to do out there for that area?
We have our overlay district out there in the western corridor, particularly by Rellis. It is already zoned for some commercial, particularly along the main thoroughfares. And I think anybody that lives out on the west side would love to see more restaurants, more commercials, more retail. And so that is already zoned. In order for that to be changed, somebody would have to come to the city and ask. So we've got it overlaid in the attempt to attract some commercial. We're doing the reinvestment zones. The city is really gearing up in every way possible to be as attractive as we can for more commercial out there.
Sure. What else is going on?
We've got lots going on in the city of Bryan. We've got our Grand Slam Cruise-In Car Show. That's going to be at Travis Fields at Midtown Park. That's on February 28th, 6 to 8. We have the Destination Paradise Dance for ages 55 and over. That's Friday, March 14th, 7 to 10 at the Brazos Center. Michael Hearn's Big Barn Dance and Music Festival is returning to Bryan. That's going to be March 27th and 29th. We still have some VIP tickets available for that. That website is bigbarndance.com. If you haven't been, Scott, I can't remember if you were there last year.
I wasn't there last year. I was out of town.
It's
right.
so much fun. It is definitely, we hear all the time, there needs to be things for older people in town to do, not just college-driven. It's a great set of fantastic musicians. They play music. There's a big dance floor. I'd say the median age is probably about 50, 55. So it's a great demographic. It's really fun. It's family friendly. There's vendors and just 2 days of great music. We'd love to see everybody come out and enjoy that.
Absolutely. Marca Ewers-Shurtleff from the city of Bryan. Thanks for the time this morning.
Thank you so much, Scott.
You bet.